him because he's scoring goals. But if there's one area that you could think he could really improve his game, would that be maybe in the final third? Maybe he's trying to beat the opponent in the box, maybe one too often. Should he be getting it out of his feet that bit quicker and getting shots on? Is it in terms of he's the ability of a wide man, an attacker? He's an awful lot of flair to his game, but sometimes he does do a bit too much flair in the box.
I think, Jim, for Del really is we saw both aspects of him being just as effective in terms of him getting in the box and getting his shots off, but him getting in the box and creating that space with him in terms of in his 1v1 situations. But one thing what we'll agree with him scoring goals or taking multiple touches is he's been effective for the team. And I think that's one thing that we can all agree with looking at his game. And I don't think much of us would take much away from his game because in terms of that, it's been a thorn in opposition's defences and it's been a wonderful attacking acquisition to us. So long may that continue. But I think the final ingredient with that is that he continues to score goals or assist goals like he did the other night.
Yeah, and I suppose is that unpredictability that you're really sort of depending so, and he keeps defenders guessing because they just don't know if he's going to get it out of his feet or is he going to try and take him on and beat him again.
And that can be difficult for any defender to defend against in terms of, like you said, is he going to shoot or is he going to pull the ball back? Or is he going to expose and eliminate an opponent in a 1v1 situation? So he's got all that unpredictability to his play, but it's certainly effective for us when it does come off.
I suppose, Darren, that Christmas period, we mentioned obviously playing Blackburn, Norwich, Middlesbrough to come, and in Leicester. In terms of preparing for these games, given the short sort of distance, given Middlesbrough to Leicester now, in between games, is it really sort of downtime, recovery, and maybe a sort of video session, a tactical sort of session? Because I imagine that whatever work you've done now for Middlesbrough is probably the work you've probably done for Leicester, given that there's no real time really to get players back onto a session again. So is it almost you're taking games in twos rather than ones when you're looking at them?
No, he's taking it in one still and making sure that we're loading all our energies into this particular game. Yes, there's been a real quick turnaround for Blackburn, and that's why you have to quickly dust yourself down after the Blackburn game. And literally, Jim, the next morning, it's on to the next game, which sees us playing against Middlesbrough. And it'll be the same again once we finish the game at Middlesbrough tomorrow night. We'll get up on I'm losing my days. I think it's Saturday morning, and then it's focusing on to the next game. So before we get to that, the attention and detail was to recover the players, to get them turned around really quickly, and then probably, like everybody else, probably have 24, 48 hours to prepare for another game in terms of making sure that we're right and ready to go again tomorrow evening.
Yeah. And Darren, in terms of the youngsters that are on the bench that are getting their opportunity over this hectic Christmas period, trying to keep them prepped and keep them on their toes. Some of them wondering, will they get the chance? Some of them might be getting a few minutes. In terms of, you probably know yourself during the Christmas period that they will all be called upon at one sort of stage. Is that sort of hard maybe for them who are going through their first Christmas calendar, some of these youngsters, and in terms of the championship, to try and say, listen, you got to be focused. There could be a period now. It could come today. It could come against Leicester City. It could come basically with 10, 15 minutes to go that you could be called on, given the amount of resources and the expenditure that some of the senior lads have put into their legs so far.
Agreed, Jim, once again. And the message has always been to the younger players, but not just the younger players, the group as a whole, in terms of being absolutely ready at any given point. It's the way we've always trained the group and continue to train the group, and the message that we've always applied to the group on a consistent basis, and even more so now with the succession of games in a small period of time. So the younger players are ready, and hopefully you'd have saw a little bit of that with Jacob and Loic coming on the other night and playing their part as two younger players in the team. And there's still other younger players added to the squad that, if needed to call upon, they're thrown into a situation where even with their tender young ages, they're asked to come of age real quick with a maturity, and they've shown that. But we feel that that's the messages we've been giving to them, Jim, on a daily basis, on a consistent basis. And that's what we look at them. They are young players, but they're in the first team fold for a reason, because they're good enough to be in the first team fold.
And I suppose, Darren, as we mentioned, you reflected on it earlier, but just to finish off, in terms of the year itself, in terms of 2023, an awful lot of highs and some lows, and then more highs again for you. Are you looking where you were last year to this year? Would you swap it, or are you sort of very comfortable in terms of where you are? Do you think this is a natural progression for you in the football world, and everything happens for a reason, and this is where you find yourself today?
For me, Jim, it's a maxing out in every opportunity given, and I certainly look back on the year as a wonderful year in terms of what's gone on in the year, and then the highs have been fantastic. We've worked incredibly hard to achieve those, and on the lows, there's been a massive learning in terms of enabling to gain the highs. I often say it's in the low points where in the games where you probably learn the most and develop the most. And unfortunately, none of us want to go through them, but it's in those times that you learn and develop the most. And it's just the way it is. So in all those situations, I've always looked upon it as an opportunity to what have we learned? What can we gain from it? Where have we developed from it in terms of going forward, so that things like that don't happen again? And that's ultimately what I've maintained with it. But certainly I look back on the year, and I certainly want to look back at the turn of the new year, knowing that we maxed out as much as we could in 2023, and what things have we learned from 2023 that we can take into 24 and continue to progress and move forward. And it's certainly for me as an individual that never really want to stand still. I'm always open and receptive to listen to ideas and different options and try different things. And I think that's where the learning comes from, whilst always maintaining that competitive edge. And that's always will be and continue to be. So yeah, we're still in 2023, so there's still a lot to learn. Even though we come to the final days of it, there's still so much to learn with it, Jim. And yeah, when 2024 comes, then we'll accept it for where it's at.
Well, Darren, if I don't speak to you again until 2024, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you, buddy.
Cheers, Jim, and you too. Same to you lot, guys. Cheers, and we'll see